No one is watching your struggle as closely as you think, and that uncomfortable truth can set you free. Most of your anxiety comes from believing others are judging or tracking your life. Today, you will discover why accepting that no one truly cares unlocks emotional freedom, inner strength, and a calm power the Stoics quietly mastered centuries ago. You live for imagined eyes, measuring choices against opinions, hesitating endlessly. Stoics knew people are consumed by themselves, and accepting this frees mind and life. Secret 1. You are not the center of other people's minds. You often assume that people remember your mistakes far longer than they actually do. You replay awkward moments repeatedly, believing they linger in someone else's memory. In reality, most people forget these moments almost immediately because their attention moves on. Think about yesterday and recall how many small mistakes others made around you during ordinary moments. Now consider how many of those moments you can remember clearly right now without effort or strain. The answer is usually very few, if any, because your mind is occupied with your own inner world. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that other people's minds are filled with their own status concerns, fears, and quiet battles. Your misstep barely registers in their awareness before their attention returns to themselves. This realization bruises the ego before it begins to heal the mind. It can feel lonely to accept that your struggles are not headline news in anyone else's life. Yet freedom begins precisely where the need to be constantly noticed comes to an end. To apply this insight, notice when you hesitate because of imagined judgment. Ask yourself whether this moment will matter to anyone in a week, then act anyway with calm intention. Secret 2. The need to be seen is the root of suffering. You want your effort to be noticed, your pain to be validated, and your struggle to be acknowledged as meaningful. This desire is deeply human because connection and recognition once ensured survival. It is also deeply dangerous when your peace becomes dependent on attention. When your emotional stability relies on being seen, you surrender control over your inner state. Silence begins to feel like rejection. Distraction feels like disrespect, and indifference turns into pain. Epictetus taught that suffering begins when we attach our well-being to things outside our control, and attention is one of those things. Imagine carrying a bowl filled with water across a crowded room filled with noise and movement. If you watch the people instead of the bowl, the water spills and the task fails. Your focus determines your stability more than the environment ever could. Practice doing meaningful things quietly, allowing discipline to exist without applause. The less you need to be seen, the more grounded and powerful you become from within. Secret 3. Accepting indifference builds emotional armor. When you stop expecting care, you stop feeling betrayed by its absence in everyday life. This does not make you cold or distant from others. It makes you resilient and emotionally steady. Most disappointment grows from unspoken expectations you never clearly expressed. You expect support without asking, understanding without explanation, and loyalty without clarity. When those expectations go unmet, bitterness slowly takes root. Stoicism teaches voluntary discomfort as a form of mental training. You imagine the absence of comfort so its loss cannot destabilize you emotionally. You prepare your mind for indifference so that it no longer shocks or wounds you. This approach does not mean rejecting connection or isolating yourself from others. It means you no longer depend on connection to feel whole or worthy. To apply this lesson, lower emotional dependency while remaining open to gratitude. Appreciate support when it appears and remain steady when it does not. Secret 4. Privacy is a form of power. When no one cares as much as you imagined, you gain something rare and valuable. You gain privacy, and privacy is where true strength quietly develops. A seed cannot sprout under constant inspection because growth requires darkness, silence, and time. Your goals flourish best when protected from unnecessary noise and outside opinions. Your plans weaken when exposed too early, and your identity strengthens when it is not constantly explained. Seneca warned against living publicly before becoming internally stable. The crowd often confuses clarity, while silence sharpens it over time. Guard your inner world carefully. Share less about unfinished plans and build quietly with patience. Let results speak when words no longer matter. Secret 5. Detachment sharpens focus. When you stop worrying about how you appear, your energy naturally returns to where it belongs. Your work improves, your decisions simplify, and your attention deepens. An archer who watches the crowd misses the target, while one who watches the target forgets the crowd exists. Detachment is not avoidance of responsibility or emotion. It is selective attention directed toward what truly matters. You cannot control opinions, but you can control effort and intention. The Stoics trained themselves to invest only in what responded to discipline and action. Apply this lesson by redirecting attention whenever thoughts drift toward judgment. Return to action and focus on what genuinely moves your life forward. Secret 6. Self-respect replaces external validation. When no one cares, you must decide who you are without mirrors or applause. This moment quietly defines character more than any public achievement. You stop asking whether you look successful and start asking whether you are aligned with your values. This shift changes everything about how you live and choose. You act with integrity even when unnoticed, rest without guilt, and work without resentment. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a good person does good without needing witnesses, and that is real freedom. Begin setting private standards that only you must answer to. Measure yourself against yesterday rather than against others. Let self-respect become the reward that sustains you. Secret 7. Indifference clears the path to meaning. When you release the need for attention, you make space for genuine purpose. Your life stops performing for approval and starts expressing what matters. You choose relationships for depth rather than display, and work for meaning rather than praise. You choose discipline for strength instead of approval from others. This is where calm power lives, not in loud confidence or constant validation. It lives in quiet alignment between your actions and your values. Accepting that no one cares does not diminish you in any way. It reveals who you are when nothing external is required to stand steady. You feel tired because you carry invisible expectations every day. What would change if you stopped performing your life? Who would you become if approval no longer guided your decisions? Today, you learned that freedom begins when expectations end, focus returns, and self-respect replaces validation. If this message spoke to you, share your thoughts below and tell us what changed your perspective. Like the video, share it with someone who needs calm strength, and subscribe to The Art of Living Well for free. Remember, peace begins when your worth no longer needs witnesses.